Malicious compliance. My boss fired me while I was on vacation, and I own the copyright. Years ago, in China, I worked for a manufacturing company that specialized in high-end decorative displays and props. Our clients were major shopping malls, theme parks, hotel lobbies, and large-scale festivals that featured massive installations perfect for photos. Think oversized lantern sculptures, animatronic dragons, some with simple mechanics, carved wooden arches, hand-painted backdrops, elaborate parade floats, and grand festival entrances. Our creations were substantial, real, heavy, and expensive. The workshop air was thick with the scent of resin, and the constant hum of grinders filled the days. As a project designer and in-house art lead, my job wasn't behind a desk. I was hands-on in the workshop, up on scaffolds with the team, painting, sanding, rigging, and ensuring everything fit perfectly. I'm not using names because I don't want messages from people asking if they know my old boss. I'll just call him the new boss because he was new to us even though he thought he knew everything. Our company's growth was fueled by major seasonal display contracts. We designed countless installations for mall atriums and outdoor plazas, enormous flower animals for spring, giant mooncakes and rabbit statues for the Mid-Autumn Festival, roaring lions and red arches for Lunar New Year, and various luxury pop-ups. Our work combined carpentry, fiberglass, specialized painting, and mechanical rigging, all focused on creating stunning, yet absolutely safe installations. My contract reflected my broad responsibilities, designing, scaling, and overseeing fabrication. I wasn't just sketching. I was prototyping with my team, testing load-bearing frames, and creating paint swatches under various lighting conditions. Our work often made local newspapers, so quality was paramount. I'd built a portfolio of designs known throughout the city. People would point to a display and say, "That's OP's work." While I didn't mind the company getting credit, my contract explicitly stated I retained copyright to my original designs, especially those outside specific work-for-hire scopes with defined licensing terms. This arrangement was standard for our industry, given our many one-off designs that clients licensed for a season or two. The company owned the physical installations and their brand trademarks, but I held the design's intellectual property. Copyright transfer only occurred for specific, higher-fee work-for-hire projects where the contract explicitly assigned it. The default was always my ownership, with the company holding a license for specific client events. Any reuse required renegotiation. This structure protected both parties. I maintained my creative identity, and the company was shielded from lawsuits thanks to our clear documentation. It worked. Then ownership changed. The old boss retired and a new one arrived, from a corporate background, definitely not the workshop floor. His first moves, slashing budgets to boost margins and bringing in his nephew for procurement, which is never a good sign. This meant cheaper plywood, fewer screws, thinner steel, and weaker fiberglass. I immediately pushed back. Cutting structural materials isn't just saving money, it's risking collapse. He dismissed my concerns as dramatic. The catalyst for everything was a major project for a prominent outdoor plaza in a busy business district. A series of 12 massive zodiac animal sculptures. These were modular, weather-resistant, and stood on hidden steel frames anchored into concrete bases. Each featured subtle mechanical movements. An ox slowly turning its head, a horse swishing its tail, a rabbit twitching its ears, and a dragon with a gently curling cloud mechanism. The design blended traditional paper-cut patterns with modern geometric planes. I'd spent months perfecting this visual style. Sharp geometric surfaces featuring traditional motifs carved as negative space, backlit at night. The lighting plan alone involved a detailed spreadsheet of wattages, diffusion gels, and maintenance access panels. We'd pitched this design to the plaza management the previous year. They loved it and licensed the entire set for a multi-season rollout. An anchor project that would keep our workshop busy for 6 months. The plaza's contract explicitly named and pictured my licensed designs, referencing my author catalog, with the company acting as manufacturer and installer under my license. This detail, though technical, becomes critical later. Once the new boss arrived, he aimed to streamline things. He pushed a new contract, attempting to transfer all my copyrights to the company for simplicity. No changes to pay, no promotion, no extra compensation, just signed to make legal easier. I refused. That's not how my industry works. My design style is my livelihood. I wasn't about to give away my crown jewels for free. He was annoyed but initially backed off. Tensions rose as the plaza project moved into full production. Procurement continually swapped materials for cheaper alternatives. Marine-grade plywood for internal structures was replaced with mystery board that split under screw pressure. Steel frames arrived with sloppy welds. I once halted installation, sending a piece back because a weld looked like squeezed toothpaste. Workshop guys grumbled that a dragon's neck would sag in the rain if built that way. The new boss called me excessively cautious, often quipping, "Clients can't see inside." My reply: "Gravity doesn't care what clients see." I'd booked a vacation months earlier, prior to the project's final install phase. I desperately needed a break. Burnout was looming, and my wife had been urging me to visit her aunt in a coastal town. The old boss approved my request, and the installation schedule was built around it. My detailed binder included torque specs, anchor layouts, step-by-step photos, an alternate anchor plan for known voids in the plaza's paving, and a highlighted warning: do not alter designs or structural elements without written approval due to licensing and safety. I also emailed the new boss, reminding him that any deviations from licensed designs required my consent, per our contract and the plaza's license. I CC'd the client contact at the plaza, a clear paper trail. Then we left for the coast. On the first day of my vacation, my phone exploded with messages from the workshop guys. Procurement had supplied cheaper fasteners, zinc-plated anchors instead of the specified stainless steel ones for outdoor use near fountains. Someone tried swapping my specified LED strips for no-name tape that turned magenta under the warm white filter. I frantically messaged the site lead to follow the binder. The lead fabricator privately replied that the boss told him to ignore the binder if it slowed things down. Just get it done. Clients can't see inside. On day 3, the new boss called. He began, "I don't appreciate your tone in your emails." I'd sent him a note stating the zinc anchors were unacceptable, and that I wouldn't sign off on installation photos. He retorted, "You're not here. We're doing it. This company owns everything you draw. Don't forget that." I reminded him that my contract stated otherwise. He simply said, "We'll see about that after this. Enjoy your trip." Click. I tried to ignore it to soak in the sea air. Later, a colleague sent me a photo of the plaza at night. My dragon was up, but the lighting was all wrong. The cutouts I'd designed for soft, diffused backlighting were instead lit by harsh spotlights, making them look like Swiss cheese. The fog machine was blasting, completely uncontrolled. The horse had a visible, bald seam where a filler layer was skipped. Even worse, the steel base plates were exposed. They'd raised the animals on small shims instead of grinding the paver's flesh and tucking the plates underneath. I was furious but helpless from afar. The next morning, I awoke to a formal complaint from the plaza's operations manager. 2 animals were creaking, showing noticeable movement when people leaned on them for photos. The plaza threatened penalties if the company didn't fix it within 2 days. I called the site lead. He sounded stressed. "Boss said we can't do rework billable hours," he told me. "Just tighten what we can and tape the seams. We're already behind." Then came the real blow. I received an email from HR. I was terminated for insubordination and obstructing production, claiming I refused to support the installation and that my vacation constituted job abandonment. The new boss had CC'd half the world, including the plaza client. He wrote, "We will complete all design and install work under company copyright, effective immediately." My wife saw me staring at my phone. "What happened?" she asked. "I got fired by email," I replied. Her aunt poured me tea and advised me to breathe before doing anything rash. This is where the malicious compliance truly began. I didn't reply in anger. Instead, I calmly gathered my contract, our design licenses with the plaza, my change order emails, and my detailed binder. I also pulled up old messages where the new boss had insisted on his way, claiming he didn't need my consent. I forwarded my termination email to a personal account and saved all attachments. Then I drafted 2 calm, separate emails, one to the plaza's management, the other to the new boss. To the plaza, I referenced our license agreement. The company was licensed to produce and install my designs under my approval for that specific project, and any modifications outside the agreed scope required my consent. With my immediate termination, my supervision and approval were no longer in effect. As the author and copyright holder, per Schedule X of our license, I stated I could not authorize further modifications or derivative works by the company without a new agreement. I urged them to ensure safety and offered to discuss a solution. To the new boss, I replied simply, "Per your termination notice, my employment ends immediately. As noted in our existing agreements, my designs are licensed for use under specific conditions, including my approval of final aesthetic and structural details. Since I am no longer your employee and did not approve recent changes, please cease further use of my copyrighted materials beyond the scope already delivered. Any ongoing use without authorization will be treated as infringement." That was it. No insults, no drama. Just compliance with his actions. He fired me? Fine. He said they'd complete everything as company property? Fine. I would comply with the legal reality. They didn't own my copyright, only a license tied to my role and approvals. If they wanted to keep using my designs post-firing, they'd need a new license or risk breach. I turned off my phone, walked the beach with my wife, and slept soundly. The fallout began almost immediately. The plaza's legal team contacted me, seeking clarification on their installation's license compliance. I explained my unapproved modifications and documented concerns about materials and anchoring. Safety comes first, I told them, emphasizing I wasn't trying to sabotage. I offered my original install plan and an assessment of changes, stating my hourly consulting rate since I was no longer an employee. They agreed, hiring me as an independent consultant for a few days to assess the site. After all, a toppling display was their nightmare. With my wife's blessing, I cut my vacation short by a day and took the train back. The plaza's operations manager met me at dawn, visibly relieved. From a distance, the displays looked impressive, but up close the problems were audible. A faint rhythmic creak emanated from a couple of statues, a stress sound you absolutely don't want on something kids might climb. The rabbit's cable routing was sloppy, visible through the cutouts. The dragon's neck frame was under tension due to a faulty workaround. Walking with a safety inspector, I pointed out each deviation. We opened an access hatch. Zinc-plated anchors, not stainless, were installed, already showing white corrosion from the fountain mist. When I showed them the load tables in my binder and explained, "If someone grabs this and swings, the anchor could shear," you should have seen the manager's face. He immediately called his boss. The plaza issued a formal notice to the company. The installation was non-compliant. They had to halt public access and either fix it to my original specifications or remove it. Furthermore, due to my termination and the copyright dispute, they wouldn't accept any further design alterations from the company without my direct sign-off. The new boss sent an angry text. "You're undermining us. This is a breach of your duty." My reply: "I have no duty. You terminated me. I'm complying with our legal agreements. Please direct further messages to my email." I wasn't just playing legal games. I was genuinely worried about safety. 2 animals were borderline acceptable, but the others needed significant rework. I drafted a report for the plaza with photos, annotations, and a detailed rework plan, including a parts list, proper anchors, weld corrections, and instructions for hiding base plates. My consulting fee was minuscule compared to the project's value, and they paid it gladly. It was a small price to keep people safe and avoid negative press. Now, for the part where the malicious compliance truly stung the boss. Our original license agreement with the plaza included a penalty clause. If installation was delayed due to the company's fault or non-compliance with the approved design, a daily penalty applied. Additionally, copyright issues preventing display, or causing it to be covered or removed, incurred an extra fee. This was standard. Large plazas can't afford empty spaces during peak holiday seasons. My email, stating I hadn't authorized modifications and was no longer supervising, gave the plaza grounds to pause everything. They tarped 3 of the animals and erected under maintenance signs. A disastrous look for launch week. Social media quickly turned mocking. People posted photos of the dragon with a tarp like a scarf. The plaza demanded immediate corrective action. The company attempted an overnight fix using the same cheap materials. The plaza refused, demanding my sign-off and presence. The new boss tried calling me, but I insisted on written communication. I told the plaza I'd only approve corrective work meeting the original specs, providing a list of approved suppliers. The new boss, however, refused to buy the correct anchors, citing his nephew's shop had already delivered the substandard ones. A genuine standoff ensued, with the penalty clock ticking. Then came the unforeseen blow for the new boss. He'd bragged to the plaza that my designs were company property, implying they could modify them at will. The plaza's lawyer requested proof. He presented a new internal IP policy document he'd made staff sign after my employment began. Not my contract. They saw right through it. The plaza informed him that their license explicitly named me as the copyright holder, and his claim contradicted it. They reminded him that any unapproved derivative works would be infringing. Meanwhile, my former workshop team contacted me privately. They were unhappy. They took pride in their work and knew these shortcuts made them look bad. I assured them I wouldn't badmouth them. Understanding management was forcing the cheapest path. A few asked if they could consult for me privately if the plaza rehired me. I declined, explaining I couldn't while they were still employed, not wanting to put them in a difficult position. I did, however, remind them to document any unsafe instructions for their own protection. The company began bleeding money. Daily penalties accrued for the partially covered displays. The installation team racked up overtime, waiting for approvals that never came. The client's marketing team was furious. They'd scheduled influencers and photographers, only to have tarps visible in engagement photos. The new boss tried a new tactic, instructing marketing to remove my name from media, presenting the designs as classic company style. This backfired as local press were accustomed to crediting me. I'd given interviews before about traditional motifs and modern displays. When reporters reached out, asking if I'd left, I politely replied, "I'm no longer with the company. I'm working with the plaza to ensure safety and compliance." That was all I said, but it was enough. The company's owner's representative, above the new boss, flew in. He wanted to meet and resolve the misunderstanding. I agreed to a neutral location, bringing a lawyer friend, not a high-profile attorney, but sharp with contracts and possessing a calm demeanor that made blustering managers sweat. At the meeting, the new boss immediately accused me of sabotaging the project, waving a photo of the tarp displays and claiming I was holding the project hostage. My friend simply asked him to show where my contract relinquished copyright or where I agreed to approve unsupervised modifications. He couldn't. My friend then presented the emails where the boss insisted on his own way, my warnings about the anchors, and the termination notice itself. The owner's rep looked annoyed, but not at me. I made a clear offer. I would license the designs for continued use this season and supervise the corrective work as an independent contractor for a fixed fee, provided the work followed original specifications, with no material substitutions, and I had final QC sign-off. I also requested a small premium on the license fee, reflecting unauthorized modifications. I wasn't gouging them, just making it clear this wasn't free. And I wanted a written apology for the insubordination claim, as that termination email had circulated. The new boss scoffed, claiming the company would just build new designs. My friend smiled and asked how long it would take to develop and prototype 12 new designs, get client approval, all while incurring daily penalty fees and with the plaza already contracted for my existing set. Silence. The owner's rep asked if there was an alternative. My friend shrugged. The rep requested a moment, then stepped out with the new boss. When they returned, the rep looked exhausted. They agreed to the license renewal and my consulting conditions. The new boss was seething. I added one more condition. I would not work directly with the new boss. I wanted a single point of contact from the owner's side and direct access to the plaza. If any safety or spec instructions were overridden, I would stop immediately. I also asked for an upfront installment on the license renewal. The rep agreed. Let me be clear. I didn't demand my job back. I didn't want it. The boss had revealed his true colors. I was simply happy to be well paid for my designs and to ensure the installation wasn't a hazard. Corrective work began that very night. I worked alongside the plaza manager and a company crew who still respected me. We unbolted base plates, swapped anchors, reinforced frames, and tidied cable runs. We rebalanced the dragon's neck, dimmed the lighting, added diffusion, and matched paint on that bald seam. It took 3 long nights. The plaza lifted the tarps, and social media mockery flipped to praise. People posted photos of kids pointing at the rabbit's moving ears, couples taking selfies with the tiger's star-like backlit cutouts. The plaza sent me a thank you note. The penalty clock stopped, but the company had already incurred a substantial cost. Yet my compliance wasn't over. The plaza wanted to extend the display into the next season and potentially reuse animals for another festival. Previously, the company would have handled my license extension fee through my employment, but now they needed a new license. I offered a comprehensive multi-season license allowing reuse with my oversight, for a fee reflecting the true value. The owner's rep agreed, cutting the new boss out of that negotiation. Internally, the company began the blame game. The new boss tried to fault procurement. The procurement nephew, in turn, threw the installation team under the bus. But the installer lead produced our chat logs, showing the boss had explicitly ordered them to disregard my instructions in Binder and to use the cheaper anchors. My workshop guys had saved everything. I hugged the lead fabricator when he showed me, saying, "I remembered what you always told us. Write things down." The owner's rep launched an internal review. The paper trail clearly revealed a pattern of decisions that ignored safety and licensing conditions. Then a new problem. An influencer's video from the TARP days went viral. It featured the plaza's name, the company's logo on a worker's vest, and the caption, "When art becomes hazard," with a clip of a wobbly statue. The company tried to take it down, only making it spread faster. The plaza was understanding after the fixes, but marketing departments don't forgive easily when their biggest seasonal campaign is ruined. A week later, the company asked if I'd consider returning as creative director. I declined, stating I was happy to continue as an independent designer with clear licensing agreements. The owner's rep then asked if I'd help them write new internal standards to prevent future issues. I drafted the document, QC checklists, approved materials lists, change protocols, license compliance reminders. They paid for my time. I firmly stated I wouldn't report to the new boss. The rep replied, "Understood." The new boss's end came faster than expected. The internal review uncovered that he'd channeled most purchases through his nephew's shop, even when their quotes were above market rate, and several invoices were suspicious. This, combined with the licensing debacle and penalties, painted a picture of, at best, incompetence and at worst, self-dealing. The owner's rep called me to inform me of a leadership change. Translation: the boss was fired. The nephew quietly vanished from procurement. Someone asked if I felt vindicated. Honestly, I felt relief. I care about the guys on the floor and the work itself. I don't cheer when someone loses a job, but he created that situation, then swung a hammer at his own foot while telling everyone else to stand still. He tried to take my work without paying. Actions have consequences. You might think that's where the story ends, but the malicious compliance had one more ripple. A month later, a different mall contacted me directly. They planned to hire the old company for a spring flower animal display, but asked if I was available to design it independently, hiring a separate fabricator. I said yes with conditions. I would design, provide fabrication drawings, and license the designs either to them or to a manufacturer of my choice. They were fine with this. I recommended an old colleague who'd recently left the company and started a small workshop. He'd always wanted his own place but lacked the network. The mall conducted a small bid and chose his team. I worked with him to keep costs reasonable while using proper materials. The result? Beautiful floral deer with delicate yet toddler-proof frames, and lighting perfect for photos. The mall loved them, immediately signing a second season option. Another plaza reached out after seeing those photos, and suddenly, I had more work than I could handle alone. To be fair, the old company wasn't ruined. They still had other accounts and could produce simpler decorations. But in our industry, reputation is paramount. Cutting corners is a fast track to ruin. They realized they needed me more than I needed them, and my licenses became precious to them. The owner's rep told me, "We won't make that mistake again." I believe him. We collaborated on several more projects where I licensed designs and consulted on installations. When they followed the specs, everything went smoothly. But if they tried creative cost savings, I'd simply refuse to sign off and they wouldn't push. The penalty pain was still fresh in their accounting department.